Okay, look at you. Wait a minute. You're both named Mitch. You're both named Mitch. But it's nothing like making it hard on us to figure out who is who in this situation.
Yeah,
you're both named Mitch. There's Mitchell. Okay, Mitchell's on the left.
It shouldn't show his name as Mitch twice. I don't know why that happened.
Are you two in the same house?
Yes.
Awesome. Very great. What are you guys up to? Just hanging out today?
Yeah, we had company. I have my daughter and her husband. Merrill's here, and one of our neighbors came over.
Great. Okay, I'm going to leave you two boys to talk all kinds of baseball. I never worry about you guys not having something to talk about. That's for sure.
Well, if you could turn our BS into coins, you'd be welcome.
Do what? Uh-oh. Merrill?
We're getting feedback. Let me shut the door.
Uh-oh. So Mitchell and Merrill are in the same house, and so thanks if you're in the chat room. Thank you for joining us. Just getting ready to talk some baseball. I will say that. Nope, now I hear myself.
The chat room in, of course, because I'm not getting it.
Well, you can get it on your cell phone. Give me your cell phone.
Well, don't worry about that right now. We got to go.
Is this fun? Is
this
fun for people?
We're ready to go. We are ready to go.
All right, you got Merrill on the right, Mitchell on the left, and I'll see you guys later. Enjoy the show.
Thank you. You too. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Baseball Roundtable Labor Day edition. Merrill and I are in the same house, but in two different rooms. So the Washington Nationals hat, for some reason, he's on my laptop and I'm on my desktop. So ignore the name below his face. It's Merrill, not Mitch. And so tonight we got a few things we want to talk about. Merrill, how are you doing? Is everything all right?
Doing okay. Good evening.
Did you have a good Labor Day? Did you labor today on Labor Day?
Very little.
Well, that will be fine.
Very little.
Going to kick off tonight with Joe Tardik asked us if we would talk about MVP candidates. And, we're in September now. So let's start with the American League. Do you want to throw some names out that you think are legitimate MVP candidates?
Well, I was going to go division by division. We know only 4 or 5 teams or whatever, or 6 are going to go to the playoffs, but I was going to suggest, just for purposes of interest, because our fans, everybody we have in the league, in both leagues, in all divisions, we have fans of everybody, so it doesn't take that long to pick a player. So I was going to start with the American League East and pick some players.
All right. Now, wait a minute. Before you do that, we need to ask a question and settle something.
Okay.
And this is a question I don't have an answer for. Do you have to be with a winning team to be an MVP?
It's one of the many, many varieties of baseball. So much is unwritten. We love and we hate, and we alternately hate and love the unwritten rules of baseball, meaning if you smacked a home run off on the pitcher, you're not supposed to dance around the bases, this kind of thing. There apparently is an unwritten rule in baseball that indicates how can you have an MVP on a team that didn't even make the postseason? I'm opposed to that. I believe the MVP should be defined as whatever player one can discern had the greatest impact on his team, win or lose. I know that's not a terribly popular position to take, but if you winnow down the field of potential candidates for MVP to the 4 or 5 teams in each league that are in play for the postseason, you're leaving out I pick a name out of the hat. How about Salvador Perez? How about a catcher that this year, already with a month left in the season, has hit more home runs than any catcher in the history of the American League? Salvador Perez with 41 and something like 27 games left. So my idea is maybe we can split this up, but I was going to suggest MVP possibilities if we would accept the notion that it could come from any team just for the sake of the fans who are watching, posting, and are on the chat room, so they know what our views are on all the teams, including teams that are there. So I will start.
Okay, before you go any further, can I make a clarification?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to give you the definition of the MVP.
Okay.
As a frame of reference.
Yes, sir.
The Major League Baseball Most Valuable Player Award is an annual Major League Baseball award given to one outstanding player in the American League and one in the National League.
And it doesn't say they had to win the championship.
Or even be a winning team.
Okay.
It doesn't say that.
Okay.
So go ahead, continue.
With the confounding Tampa Bay Rays, who get more out of their payroll and more out of the veritable chess game that is their managerial and player participation strategy from day to day and game to game. I'm citing Wander Franco, the rookie for Tampa Bay. I'm citing a possibly controversial and unorthodox pick for the New York Yankees, who would be right now a person that they'd put on the injured list. The relief pitcher, Losiaga, who has come out of nowhere to, in some instances, in the critical part of this pennant race, when the Yankees were 53 wins and 48 losses, and had to go on a streak of something like 27-6 to get into the pennant race, back into the pennant race. They've slipped a little bit. They slipped on the West Coast trip. I think they won only 2 of 6 or 8 games, but they have bounced back a little bit. But I've got Losiaga.
He hasn't appeared in enough. He hasn't had enough substantial presence, in my opinion, to qualify for MVP. We're going to go through a section. Let me finish, please. We're going to go through a topic called "Who's the most surprising player on every team," and I would certainly think he qualifies there. Are you arguing for Losiaga to be the MVP?
I think they're out of the pennant race without him. But your point is well taken. He has not performed in enough games. So I guess my my default would be Aaron Judge. He's been pretty consistent. With Boston, I've got the third baseman. I've got Devers with Boston. Guerrero, obviously, with Toronto, and Cedric Mullins with Baltimore. Do you want to do the Central?
Well, let's talk about the East first.
Okay.
Give me your argument for Cedric Mullins on the last place team.
He has 25 home runs, 26 runs batted in. He's been a steady and stealthy leadoff hitter. And unlike many of the players, or most of the players in the Baltimore lineup, has played on a daily basis. He's been an everyday player. He has fielded his position, and including several spectacular catches, robbing people of home runs in center field. So he's my candidate as the Oriole MVP.
Well, I have to tell you, I think you can make a valid argument, even though there's no requirement to be on a winning team. I think it unlikely that a player in a last place team would win, but I wouldn't rule it out. But I'm not I'm not the one who's voting.
Right.
What about the Aaron Judge? He's had a good year, but it doesn't appear. I don't think, Merrill, that I see any New York Yankee rising to serious. Garrett Cole, I guess, but that's another discussion. Can pitchers win the MVP? The answer is yes. But I don't think. Yeah,
he had a great game the other night, but I don't think he's had an MVP season. So the Yankees are kind of, in a way, for a team with the payroll they have and the raw talent they have, in terms of looking for a player that is head and shoulders above everybody else, it's difficult to do. They've had a number of contributors. Giancarlo Stanton actually has contributed more recently. But when you look at the prism of all of the 2021 season, it's hard to find. I would have 2 years ago would have said DJ LeMahieu, hands down. But if you look at this season, it's hard to find somebody who fits that criterion.
All right. Let's go to the Central.
I think you can't pick anybody from the Central leading White Sox other than Jose Abreu, who I believe has reached the century mark in runs batted in. I think he has 26 home runs. He doesn't have a really good batting average, but he's steady at first base. He's like Mullins, one of the players you send out every day of every game. I think he might have missed a few games with a hamstring, but Abreu would come from Chicago. From the Cleveland Indians, I've got the man for whom they took to some great level of criticism the trade of Lindor to the New York Mets, and that would be Juan Rosario, the shortstop who's batting 280 to 290. I'd say in the range of 288 to 290, has 50 to 60 runs batted in, has played his position in the field, and again, it might just be me, but I put a really high water mark for MVP possibilities on for consideration on players, and some of this can be really no more in some instances than the luck of evading injury. But I put a lot of stock in players who play every day. Sometimes, most of the time, all of the time, that decision is up to the manager. But Rosario has been their everyday shortstop, so I like him as maybe the most solid. Ramirez at third would be, at the Indians, a close second. I could probably make an argument that Rosario should go into the category later in the show among the players who have been the biggest surprise this year. So just for the fun of it, I'm going to say Jose Ramirez and save Rosario for the surprise list. Detroit, how can you go against this rookie Haas, who both catches and plays the outfield, hit his 20th home run yesterday, and you've got a team who has risen, I believe maybe finished in last place last year, has risen to third place, and for a short time, we're in second place, a bit ahead of the Indians. Minnesota, how do you go with anybody on Minnesota other than Jorge Polanco? Jorge Polanco, steady. Polanco, I believe, has 24 home runs, something like 75 runs batted in, and is batting in the high 270s, low 280s.
I agree.
Kansas City might nominate Salvador Perez.
Let's stick with Minnesota.
Okay.
Polanco's head and shoulders over every other player on that team right now.
Yes, I think so.
So I'm in agreement. All right, Kansas City.
Salvador Perez, head and shoulders over everybody.
I say Salvador Perez and Shohei Ohtani, one or the other, will win the AL MVP.
Can I checkmate you on one point on that? I can't see how anybody but a man who hits 40-plus homers, pitches 98 to 100 miles an hour, steals 20 bases, how anybody, notwithstanding his team's poor overall performance, cannot be the MVP. But Salvador Perez obviously is the runaway in recent years most productive hitter as a catcher that I've seen in the major leagues since the days of Ted Simmons and Johnny Bench and all the players we remember from the 70s and 80s.
Do you have anybody else in the American League West?
Well, we did not finish the West. I would say in the American League West, I picked Ohtani, Garcia of Texas. I'll do this kind of quickly. Olsen of Oakland, and we mentioned Ohtani, and we mentioned in Houston. I've got Yordan Alvarez. And that's it.
Okay, tell me who's going to get the MVP in the American League. Let's cut to the chase.
Do you want to tell me if I'm deciding or who I think's going to win?
I want your prediction. If you had to plop down $100, who's going to win the AL MVP?
My money is on the player I believe to be the greatest star in baseball, maybe to rival Babe Ruth, and that's Ohtani.
I'm in 100% agreement. I think Ohtani, I hate to engage in hyperbole, but I think that Ohtani might be the best overall baseball player in modern baseball history, meaning not including the Negro Leagues, because there are some players in the Negro Leagues out there which should be in the discussion. But I would say that in the modern baseball era, that Shohei Ohtani is the best player I've ever seen. Now, I know Pete Rose was great. I know Barry Bonds was great. I know Roberto Clemente. I could go on and on and on. Sandy Koufax.
But how many of these players hit long, pitched hard, and ran like crazy, which this guy does?
He's outstanding. Now, I'm going to flip roles. I'm going to go through the National League. I'm going to throw out some names and get your response.
That'll be fine.
Atlanta Braves. This is
Atlanta Braves. You said you were going to give me a name.
Yeah, you gave me the ones American League. I'm going to give you.
Good. That's good. That's good. All
the
good.
Atlanta Braves. I believe that Austin Riley belongs in the discussion, and I'll tell you why. Yes, Freddie Freeman is Freddie Freeman. But Austin Riley has held this team up when they were flat on their backsides for a period of time, and Freddie wasn't hitting. Austin Riley, after getting off to a slow start, has been absolutely terrific.
I would part company at this level and choose Austin Riley in our category coming up of surprise players.
Okay, all right, that's fine. Okay.
And I would give the nod to this very steady Ozzie Albies of the Braves.
All right, okay, that's fair. All right, let's move on to the New York Metropolitans. Until he got injured in the first half of the season, Jacob deGrom, even though he's a pitcher, have we seen what's happened to the New York Metropolitans since the All-Star break? And Jacob deGrom has been on the shelf. Not been pretty. It's not been pretty.
So if you can't pick deGrom, which you can't because I believe he's missed at least half a season.
That's right. That's right.
Then my MVP is Brandon Nimmo, who drives.
He was gone for half of the year. Brandon Nimmo doesn't have over 200 plate appearances.
He is a very valuable player. You could make an argument for Alonso. I don't know anybody else.
I don't have any New York Mets in the MVP.
I'm dealing theoretically that we're offering the audience for each team theoretically who could be in an MVP conversation. You're right. Nimmo missed a lot of time, but Nimmo really said.
And he's out now.
Is he out again?
No, Andy's back. Hi, Andy.
Hi, I'm here. I wanted to say something. I have a trivia question for you, okay?
Please.
There's only one National League hitter with 100 runs scored. The question is, who is the National League hitter with 100 runs scored?
Cronenworth?
No, but good guess.
Harper's getting there, but it's not Harper. I got to think about this.
Okay, I'll let you guys go. So that was my question. There's only one. So I think if you
can you tell us, Andrea, whether it's the what division?
East.
No.
Okay, she did East. I may be going back to Ozzie Albies.
No, he was out for a while. She's nodding her head.
Actually, you guys have already talked about this player tonight. His name has already been mentioned on your show.
Okay, wait a minute. We're talking about not Juan Soto because they don't score enough.
He's second. He doesn't have 100 yet, though. He's second.
Oh my goodness! Well, this is challenging. This is going to be somebody really funny, like from the Marlins.
No, it's not.
The Marlins don't. The Marlins don't score enough runs either. So I'm going to pick a team which is Atlanta.
Okay.
And I'm going to say Freeman.
Yep, you got it, Freddie Freeman. Okay, bye.
Bingo. Thank you. Thank you, Andy. So I don't think the Mets have a player. I would say with the Philadelphia Phillies that Harper has not driven in the runs because of probably where he is in the lineup. But Bryce Harper is having, particularly since the All-Star break, an MVP season, my opinion.
He has been terrific. And as you say, you make an important demarcation. The demarcation you make, and I would never accuse Harper of this. He did not display this. There are half-season players. Trey Mancini of the Orioles, now that man is coming off cancer surgery. So I don't really want to pin him into this limited space, but there are some players that before he was diagnosed with cancer and before he had the health problems last year, tended to be among the players who were, quote unquote, half-season players. Harper is not a half-season player, but Harper has had a tendency to start seasons slowly. But since the All-Star break, he has had the highest on-base plus slugging of any player in baseball. And we're including Tatis, we're including Guerrero, we're including Soto, we're including the top hitters in the game.
So are you telling me that if it's an Atlanta Brave, you think that you could make a better argument for Freddie Freeman than Austin Riley or Albies?
You could make an argument for any of those three players. I say Albies because Albies went into a situation that is incredibly difficult and took the spot in the lineup of Acuna, who's arguably one of the top 10 players in all of baseball and has held serve as a performer there.
Yeah, I'm back on Brandon Nimmo. I agree with you that he's a fine player, but he only has 265 plate appearances.
That would be difficult. It would be difficult to crown a man with what would amount to about half as many bats as a regular.
I stated that wrong. What did I say? 260? Yeah. He's had 320 plate appearances. He has 5 home runs, 23 runs batted in, and he's got 5 stolen bases.
He would not be named MVP. My thinking on this little exercise we're doing is value. It's not a wins over. What is that statistic we all love now? Wins over replacement. It's not that. He is an igniter on the team, sort of in the way that Tommy Edman has become with the Cardinals, another one of our half-season players. Tommy Edman has been nothing almost short of spectacular.
He's not been a half-season player this year. He's been a no-season player this year.
He's been what?
He's been a no-season. He hasn't done squat.
Oh no! You haven't been watching the last 10 days. The guy has fired.
The 10-day hot streak does not MVP make.
Well, I want to clarify again. We're not talking. There's a division. There's a division of thinking here. If you're going to have this conversation about all the teams and who's most valuable to each team, actually, he was not the person I noted in my mind.
Actually,
the person I noted was Goldschmidt. Okay, was Goldschmidt.
All right,
but Edman has been good recently.
Different. Okay, so how about the Milwaukee Brewers?
That's a tough one because once again we've got a team in the National League like the Giants, which emulates the Tampa Bay Rays. They don't switch players in and out of the lineup quite like Kevin Cash does at Tampa Bay, but it's difficult to go up and down the Milwaukee lineup. And so here again, the context is who's most valuable to the team. But on this particular team, the way it's constituted, would never, probably never, win the MVP. On Milwaukee, I've got on Milwaukee. I've got Wong. Okay.
Okay, but the discussion is not about who the most valuable player is on each team, and it's my fault because we started going through the teams. The question is, who are the best candidates in the league?
But then Milwaukee doesn't have a candidate.
Yeah, bingo. All right. So, who are the 3 top candidates, in your opinion, in the National League for MVP?
My 3 top candidates for MVP are Max Muncy of LA, Fernando Tatis of San Diego, Freddie Freeman of Atlanta.
Okay. All right. See, I think we're missing someone, but I've drawn a blank. The Giants, because of the nature of the team, which is
well, they're like Milwaukee and Tampa Bay. Here again, you've got players who split time at first base, split time at second base. You could make an argument that on the Giants, the most valuable player on the team is Crawford, who's had his best year of his career and has played every game. They split time. They play Bryant at third base. Sometimes they play Longoria over there. You could make an argument for Buster Posey, who catches most games, but you could not pick the likely National League MVP from the San Francisco Giants, in my opinion. Even though they've been great all year, they are the personification of team playing. Everybody steps up and contributes, and everybody has a share. By the way, I think this is good managing. If you look at the raw talent, the roster talent of the San Francisco Giants, and compare it and the payroll to the raw talent, the gifted abilities of the roster of the Los Angeles Dodgers, and you look up, and all of a sudden it's Labor Day 2021. And the Giants actually are ahead of the Dodgers by a game, you've got to tip your cap to Gabe Kapler, the manager, for doing that.
Okay, well, I'm cheating on the bro because we need to move on to the next topic.
That'll be fine.
So I'm going to refer to a poll that I have by Thomas Hannigan that's on the MLB website. And he asked a series of MLB experts to rank their top 3 players, his signed point values, and he cautions that even with less than a month left, it can change. But in the American League, he states that Shohei Ohtani, according to his poll of experts, has 91 of 101 first place votes for MVP in the American League.
I think it's that lopsided, Mitch.
It is.
I think it's that lopsided.
I kind of disagree. I think Salvador Perez should be closer in the discussion. But I'm just telling you what his poll results said. Who's number 2? According to the poll.
Tatis?
No, now American League. Who's number 2 in the American League?
Guerrero.
Bingo. Good one. Good answer. Guerrero has 10 first place votes. Who's number 3?
Which league? Are you talking?
American League. I'm in the American League. The top 3, according to this gentleman's poll, that he took. The poll was taken on August 31st.
I'm stuck on number 3. I have a hard time finding somebody in league with Ohtani and Guerrero. I think I'm fresh out of ammo on that one.
Number 3 is Rafael Divers.
Okay, that's reasonable.
He says it probably won't be enough to win, but Devers is having an excellent season. The third baseman leads the majors in RBIs with 89. That's not necessarily true. This is August 31st.
No, he's got over 100 now, I think.
Well, this is as of August 31st.
Okay.
He has a career high 930 OPS, and he could reach the 40 homer threshold for the first time. Number 4 is, I hand you an accolade that I didn't take seriously when you mentioned this, gentleman.
Yes, sir.
Number 4 is one you pulled out of your hat.
Where?
You pulled it out of your hat.
Oh, that's better.
Number 4, according to the poll, is Matt Olson. I did not have him anywhere. Number 5.
He's had a very good year.
Number 5 is Cedric Mullins, who I think deserves serious consideration. Serious consideration.
You better pay your power bill, bro.
No, that's a telephone. So
that's what I'm telling you about.
in the National League, who is far in the lead? Not as far as Ohtani. According to the poll, who is ahead in the National League?
I would have to say Tatis. And I would be wrong. How about Joey Votto?
Joey Votto is a post-All-Star break performer who is now in a big slump, and it's killing the Reds because he was carrying
into a slump. You're right.
He's in a slump.
Okay.
The answer is Fernando Tatis. You were right again. So you have been so right so often it scares me.
I may not be right all the time, but I'm right so often it scares me too.
Fernando Tatis got 60 first place votes. Who is number 2?
Number 2, I would pick Buster Posey.
No. For MVP?
Yes, sir.
Well,
we started this whole program with the.
It's not the best player on every team. It's who.
No.
You seriously? You're seriously?
No, we started this having that discussion where we're talking about who on each team is that.
That's my fault. That's my fault.
I think it's partly my fault. I think I took the catamaran and and it listed
That's-
the lower
that's my-
side of that conversation. I
Yeah,
think that's my fault.
That's my fault. That's my fault too.
Posey has been a stellar.
Okay, we're going to go into that. We're going to talk about the biggest.
That could win the World Series.
We're going to talk about the biggest surprise performer, but we're not there yet.
Okay.
Who is number 2 in the National League? We're talking about serious MVP candidate.
For MVP.
Yes. You mentioned Tatis is number 1. Who's number 2?
I would say number 2 would be Trey Turner.
Bryce Harper.
Fair enough.
Who's number 3?
I'm like that admiral that appeared in the Ross Perot's running mate, who appeared in the debate and said, Admiral Stockdale, I say to all of you wonderful viewers on this question that was just asked of me on national television, I'm fresh out of ammo.
Number 3 is Max Muncy, who you mentioned.
I was going to say Muncy, doggone it.
No, you actually have done a stellar. You've had a few people in there that aren't in the discussion, but that's all right. Part of that was the way I framed the question.
Okay.
You have mentioned most of these people, actually, to be fair about it. Number 3 was Muncy. Number 4 will surprise you. It surprises me. This is just one poll.
Well, let me just take a guess. Which division?
National League Central.
National League Central. And are we still on the MVP talk?
The number 4 vote getter from this poll of experts plays in the National League Central.
I'm going to say Goldschmidt again.
Jesse Winker.
Jesse Winker has been out of the lineup since who knows when. Jesse Winker, I don't think, has played since shortly after the All-Star game he went down.
I'm just telling you what the poll said.
Okay.
Number 5 was Zach Wheeler.
He's taken a dipsy doodle. He has gotten wrapped around a little bit recently.
All right, enough for the MVP. Let's go through the teams and have a little bit of fun here. We'll alternate teams, and for each team, we are going to announce our candidate as the most surprising player on the team. Now, maybe before we go down a blind alley, what is a surprise player, just to keep the discussion from going off the rails?
It can be either somebody new to the league or to the roster, or can be a familiar name of somebody who's performed at some, whether A, B, C, D, or whatever level, but remained in a major league uniform, who has reached the height of his, maybe the height of his career this year.
Or it can be an established player who is performing
established
above expectations.
Right. Okay.
So we'll start with the National League with the Atlanta Braves. Surprise player.
You said it a few minutes ago. I'm giving that to you. You say the same name you said, you'd be right.
Austin Riley.
All right. Fair enough.
Easy. All right. I'll give you number 2, the Philadelphia Phillies. Surprising player on the Phillies.
Surprising player on the Philadelphia.
It doesn't have to be a major actor now. This can be somebody who has come from, like you said, from out of nowhere. Maybe somebody you never heard of before the season.
This player made a critical error, and what was construed by his manager as an error, perhaps of attentiveness rather than lack of range. And you could see the game and see a rather coarse discussion in the dugout when the player came off the field, and it was in May. And ever since, he's been a stellar surprise player, though he had done things early in his career. A surprise player who has been a stellar performer, and that's Jean Segura, in my opinion.
He's had a good year. I had a kind of a long, dark reach on this. Full disclosure, I have him on about 3 baseball fantasy teams.
That is called confirmation bias.
Well, whatever it is, his name is Ranger Suarez.
He has pitched effectively, and I believe they are converting him to a starting pitcher there.
He has about
Matt Moore. He's taken Matt Moore's place in the rotation,
more or less. He
Yes.
was closing for a bit of time. I know that's a deep reach, but my definition of surprise, it can be anybody.
It can be anybody.
So I'm saying
I say Segura is a surprise because
I'm not arguing Segura. He had a good
Segura
year.
started very strongly for 3 or 4 years with the Seattle Mariners. He came to the National League, I believe. No, actually, I'm wrong. He started with the Milwaukee Brewers. He was traded to Seattle. He had his best early years in Seattle. He tailed off for a period of maybe 2 or 3 years, and he came to Philadelphia. And he started off a little slowly this year, but has picked his game up and has been at the top of the lineup when you consider that they started McCutchen as a leadoff hitter, and he did not hit well in leadoff. They tried Rhys Hoskins batting second. You're talking again why Harper only has 62 runs batted in. Hoskins became injury prone. Segura helped steady the top of that lineup.
Yeah, he's not running like he used to, but I did note, and I'm not a physician, but from the naked eye, it looked to me like this year Segura has lost 15 to 20 pounds. I thought he was a bit chunky last year.
There you go.
Let's move on to the Washington Nationals surprise player. We can't say Soto because we all expected Soto to be an all-star. Who's a surprise performer on a very bad team? Can't say Scherzer because Scherzer's a Hall of Famer.
Alcides Escobar.
He hasn't played in the major leagues in 2 years, and the guy he's hitting about 285.
Yes, sir.
That's not a bad.
He's feeling his position. You have to go in and you have to stand up and say, I'm the new Trey Turner. This is not easy. It's not easy following a king.
This is a classic.
It's not easy carrying a water bucket to shortstop and saying, I'm replacing a king. And he has played respectfully.
He has. He's not Trey Turner. He never will be.
Of course.
But he's acquitted himself well when you figure he hasn't played in the USA in 2 years. Now,
there you go.
I had a recency bias candidate.
Yes, sir.
Is it possible that the St. Louis Cardinals have pulled another Randy Arozarena deal when they sent Lane Thomas to the Nats for John Lester? Lane Thomas has been stellar. He has taken the job of Robles, which shouldn't be hard because Robles has been awful. Lane Thomas is looking terrific.
He's looking
great.
He of the 5'10" to 6 feet height, of the arguably maybe 160 weight, and as slender as a slice of bacon, who needs to get into the weight room, has shown amazing speed on the bases, agility in center field, and some pop in his bat. Just think what he could be. They might have actually. Didn't they get him for John Lester?
They did.
Okay.
How about the Miami Marlins?
De La Cruz would be my choice. The problem with De La Cruz is he's played very limited time.
Very limited. I had Jazz Chisholm.
Jazz Chisholm. I'm sorry. Jazz Chisholm's a guy.
But Jazz Chisholm was a great prospect. But what I'm saying is,
surprise. Who's a surprise?
He's a surprise because he's major league ready. I think most of the experts believed he would be good or great. And so I wouldn't say he's been great, but I would say he qualifies as a surprise.
Because he's major league ready. He's doing this as a rookie.
All right.
That's right.
So moving over to the National League Central, who is the surprise on the Milwaukee Brewers?
My surprise on the Brewers is your catcher, and I cannot pronounce his name. You got to say it, but he's been terrific.
Omar Narvaez.
He has played almost regularly as a catcher, and the last time I looked, no, he doesn't have 26 homers and 90 runs batted in, but he has been a valuable contributor. But the question is, who is a surprise? And I'm surprised he went in to such a critical position on a pennant contending team, has kept the position, and I believe is still batting 285 or 290.
Narvaez.
Yes.
Well, you know he hit 23 or 24 home runs for the Mariners.
That's right.
2-3 years ago.
Right.
I had the name Willie Adames on the tip of my tongue because Willie Adames.
Right, okay.
If you remember last year,
he split his season, so that's why I didn't mention.
No, and I understand that, and that's fine. I'm just throwing names out. I think he performed above expectations. That guy with Tampa was not hitting like he's hitting.
Yes.
For the Milwaukee Brewers.
That's right.
Is there anybody else?
I got a guy for Cincinnati.
All right, who's that?
My man, I've got confirmation bias because he's on my team. Jonathan India.
That's a good one.
Who's played marvelously as a leadoff hitter.
That's a good one. I like that one. I would have said Winker, but Winker was showing flashes last year of being very good. But I would say India because he is a rookie. In fact, India is very likely to win National League Rookie of the Year.
That is right.
How about the St. Louis Cardinals?
I go back to who I threw out as MVP because we were talking about that as a team-to-team issue. We've gone through that. So I go back to saying my surprise is Tommy Edman.
Okay, maybe I've missed something, but I didn't think Edman was having that good of a year.
I follow them really closely. Edman has been better since the All-Star break, but he's been very good since then. I don't think the Cardinals are in a position to compete for the wild card, and it's probably one of the most anomalous issues in baseball this year because the St. Louis Cardinals, forever and a day, almost like the New York Yankees and the Brooklyn and then Los Angeles Dodgers, they have had a way of being in pennant races from year to year to year. I don't think, whatever the reason, they're in it this year.
Well, they've had setbacks in the starting pitching rotation, you know.
That's right.
Carlos Martinez and
that's right.
Miles Michaelis, and we could go on.
Right.
I won't quarrel with you. Edmund has 23 bags. That's pretty doggone good.
Yes, sir.
Hitting 268. But I guess my issue is I expected Edmund to be good. In fact, I tried to get him in an auction and got outbid. He went for like $17 in one of my fantasy auctions. How about the Pittsburgh Pirates?
That's a difficult one. It's such a it's such a weak team. I'd like to say Brian Reynolds is a surprise, but he's not.
He hit 300 before.
They're getting what they expected from Brian Reynolds. I'd like to say Polanco was a surprise, but I hear they're trying to unload him.
He's been DFA'd. He was awful. He was hitting below 200.
I'm trying to think that Hayes would be a surprise, and he has
underperformed.
Held his job. I would have picked the kid that went in the trade to San Diego, but he's
clear, and he is. I will let you pick him because he was with Pittsburgh. He is clear and above Adam Frazier, in my opinion, the best surprise performer in a Pirates uniform. He was leading the National League in base hits for weeks, for months.
He's very good.
He seems to have slowed down since he went to the Padres.
I don't know whether that's a dynamic about playing in that stadium versus PNC Park, but he has not hit as well with the Padres.
Different park.
Well, we all say these players get paid too much. I don't know. I don't want to get into that game tonight. But I'll tell you what.
Can I make an observation?
How many of us have worked wherever we worked there on a long-term basis? And what if the company we worked for could trade us to another company in another state? How well would we adjust to that?
I think my company would have traded me for 3 or 4 cartons of Coca-Cola.
I would have said for one good vacuum cleaner.
No, because you suck.
Hey, man, get that out of the park, wham!
Took the words right out of your mouth. So,
well, if I'm going to serve you up, if I'm going to, what is that ball if I'm going to throw you the Ephus pitch, you better hit it.
Well, I did. So listen, can I give you a theory about Frazier's drop-off?
Yes, sir.
He was batting leadoff in Pittsburgh.
And he's not there.
Leadoff. It's just a thought.
It's a different.
I have no data. I have absolutely no data.
I'm not a batting coach and I'm nothing. But it's a different batting coacher to bat leadoff than to bat wherever 7th they are batting him in lineup.
All right. Let's go to the Los Angeles Dodgers. Biggest surprise.
Biggest surprise with the Dodgers, I would say I'd have to pick Will Smith, the catcher. And I pick Will Smith because the player that got traded in the Scherzer and Turner trade to Washington, Cedric Mullins, was without question the highest rated catcher in the Dodger farm system. And there had been talk among the 10 or 11 vice presidents that all work for Mark Walter out there, which I think is a problem. If I'm running a company and I've got 11 vice presidents and I'm the owner, I'm going into the executive washroom and look in the mirror with the door shut for a long time at what's wrong with me.
Yeah,
at any rate, there was a notion in Los Angeles, from what I read, there was a notion that you hold serve with Austin Barnes, who is a superior receiver, handler of pitchers, and catcher than Will Smith. But Will Smith was the better of the hitters. Then there was a train of thought before the trade deadline, we're probably going to move Will Smith because we've got Cedric Mullins in waiting, and he's going to be the catcher. Well, they trade Ruiz, and they trade Hosea Gray because we're getting Max Scherzer and Trey Turner. A really unbalanced trade.
I find the Dodgers, Merrill, to be as difficult as any team in this mental gymnastics we're doing to come up with someone who's a big surprise. I can give you a negative surprise as Cody Bellinger.
He's
I
don't know how many Washington National fans are on the chat room. How many Nationals fans are in on this tonight? But any Nationals fan would understand this. I've likened the man who hit 47 home runs 3 years ago in 2018. I've likened him to descending into the Dodgers version of Danny Espinosa, a shortstop second baseman who played here and could hit very impressive home runs, but swung through so many pitches that he was out of the major leagues I think his career lasted maybe 5 years. Bellinger's not making contact. I don't know what happened to him.
But you know what strikes me as strange? You and I can't come up with a surprise player on that team.
My closest
Albert Pujols?
my closest
Albert Pujols?
No, the reason I'm citing Will Smith is because of the background I gave you. There was some notion that Will Smith probably wasn't the person, their catcher of the future, and now he is. And he's got 16 homers and 60 runs batted in. He's a good clutch hitter, and they have stayed in contention with the Giants, even as Muncy has slowed down, is in a bit of a slump. Betts missed time with an injury. Chris Taylor, who started out like a house of fire in the first half of the season, has something like 3 homers and 14 runs batted in since the All-Star break. A.J. Pollock has now gone down with a hamstring. Justin Turner, who had 18 or 19 home runs and 65 runs batted into the All-Star break, has 21 and 71 now. I don't know how they've stayed even with the Giants, who never seem to lose. So yeah. I'm picking Smith because Smith has been one of the steadier performers. But you're right, it's hard to pick a surprise on a team loaded with so much talent.
I will pass on this because I can't do any better than that. I would have said, well, I can't say Gavin Lux because he hasn't played. I can't say Chris Taylor because Chris Taylor he's performing at expectations, but not above expectations.
Actually, he's been performing.
Same thing is true for Muncy.
Taylor's been beneath expectations for 3 weeks. He hasn't hit.
Yeah, you told me that. So the Dodgers, I'm having trouble coming up with what I think could be a surprise player for the Dodgers. So let's move on to the Giants.
I've got my surprise for the Giants, and this one, I'm going to give you one very hard to challenge. Ruff.
Darren Ruff?
Yes, sir.
He's been better than has been generally recognized.
He's been considered his entire career what you familiarly like to refer to as 4A players. The highest level of minor leagues is AAA. I like your coinage of phrases. Your 4A, as I understand it, is somebody who would amount to a career minor leaguer who just can't ever get to major league level. And we'll get to the name of a player we thought was a 4A with the aforementioned Los Angeles Dodgers, who's with the Texas Rangers now, named DJ.
We're going to get to that. We're going to
get to that.
Okay, but guess what I did? I screwed up.
I beg your pardon?
I never mentioned a team in the NL Central that's got 3 surprise players.
Which team?
The Cubbies. Ortega, Swindell, and Wisdom.
You've got Swindell. You've got the third baseman, Patrick Wisdom, and you've got Ortega.
Yeah, I got breezed right past that. So we did the Giants. Now let's go to the Padres. Surprise player on the Padres.
Surprise player on the Padres. I can't really say Cronenworth because he's been good since the day he arrived there, but he's been very special this year. Let me. I'm
going to throw out a name. Can I throw out a name?
Sure.
Mark Melanson.
That's better than mine.
Because even though he's performed in the past,
people wrote Melanson off,
including me.
All the fancies. All of the preseason experts wrote this guy off. He's a closer without velocity. He can't go up there like Aroldis Chapman and throw it 100 miles an hour, but he can go up there and he can close. What's he saved? Like 36 games or something?
Something like that.
He can go in and close on the C&G pitch. I love the C&G pitch, cunning and guile.
Colorado Rockies.
C.J. Cron is my surprise, although you have stated to me with validity you might take Merrill Hartson out of Maryland and ship him out to to Denver and put him in Coors Field, and he might hit 100. But C.J. Cron is my Rocky surprise. He had really one good year in his career early on, I think, with the Twins. But this year, he is slashing. He is slashing at 25.79, and I think 275. He has been terrific.
Yeah, my candidate, because Crone I expected to hit 25 home runs. My candidate is Rafael Tapia.
He's been good.
With 20 stolen bases. Part-time bit player, never really given a regular gig. But both of them, you can make an argument. All right, Arizona Diamondbacks.
Oh, that's a tough one. I've got the University of Virginia kid. I don't know who else to pick other than, I can't remember his first name. It begins with
Pavin Smith.
Kevin Smith, who played at the
Pavin.
Okay. He's the only one I can think of, and he hasn't had a great year, but he's been steady. And he's new.
I kind of agree with Pavin Smith because he is a UVA kid, but he hasn't been great. But he's performed at a fairly respectable major league level, pretty much as an everyday player. So I would buy that.
Here's why I respect you've heard too many speeches from me about how the great relativity of lineup placement is. We talked earlier about the difference between batting leadoff for this kid in Pittsburgh, Adam Frazier, and batting somewhere else in the lineup. There's another anomaly in my view about hitting that not even the best hitting coaches seem to be able to resolve. And that's how to stand out as a hitter if you're in the lineup of a very poor hitting team. Because you are affected by how the people are hitting around you.
So you're not.
If you want to really resuscitate a slugger who's in a slump, you bat him number 2 in the lineup. This is how Aaron Judge ended up very early in the season being moved up to number 2 because he couldn't buy a hit because he was batting in front of somebody who could hit. Or you move somebody up ahead of Soto, or you move somebody up ahead of Tatis or Guerrero.
So you think this might have something to do with Soto being walked nearly 100 times?
Yes. But the reason I cite Pavin Smith is he's hit quite accountably. I think in the 270s. He's not a real power hitter, but he's been steady and he's played regularly on a really bad team.
All right, let's go to the American League and finish this thing up.
All right.
New York Yankees surprise.
New York Yankees surprise. I would. That's a
hard one. I like the topic because there are some teams where it's really hard to come up with a genuine surprise performer.
I would love to say Voit, but I don't think he's really played enough.
He hasn't played at all.
I'm doing a Tinkers to Evers to Chance, and I'm throwing that one back to you.
I don't have one.
Well, thank you. You were supposed to bail me out.
This is why I choose to ask the questions, because it's easier to ask the questions. You know, I had a professor at William & Mary. I'd go down there every Tuesday night for 10 years. And the guy, I thought he was old, which I'm older than he is when he was teaching, but I thought he was ancient. And I dozed through his class because I'd been working all day long. And he said something that I remember from all these years at the College of William & Mary. I'm off topic, but it popped into my head. He said, and I apply this test to politicians. And this is what he said. Can't get my hat on straight.
Well,
he said the mark.
No cowboy.
He said, Dr. MacArthur said one night, with me in a semi-catatonic state, that old man said, the mark of an educated person is not the person who can give you the answer. The
But
mark
no,
of a
what-
truly
what-
educated person is a person who can ask the right questions.
Correct.
And I never forgot that. I never forgot that.
Well, you heard about the famous eccentric philosophy professor whose final exam distributed to the class at the great State University of New York consisted of a word on the blackboard. Why?
One word.
There's 40 or something students sitting in there writing their tails off, getting hand cramps, writing a whole 8.5 by 11 page, turning it over, writing the rest. And there's another student who shall remain nameless, but I hear upon reliable sources had come to this final exam with an incredible hangover, who sat and looked at it, pulled out a hanky, wiped his brow, closed his eyes, pulled out, wiped his brow, and wrote on the sheet, "Why not?"
Okay. I only got
the final exam resulted in this student getting an A+, and the professor, who was a PhD, like you, a professor, having to curb all the other exams and pass out 38 D pluses.
I'll say one more.
I will not say here and now who the smart aleck was that figured that out.
That's fine.
Thank you.
We'll have one more academic reference. I was on the adjunct faculty of Florida Institute of Technology for 20 years. One of my colleagues.
Is that adjunct or adjunct?
No, it's adjunct, J-U-N-K. One of my colleagues you've heard of Prince Machiavelli.
I believe I've heard of that fellow.
If you do something that's Machiavellian, it's called manipulation.
Yes, sir.
This gentleman gave out a test in finance with 100 true-false questions. How many of the correct answers were true, and how many of the correct answers were false?
Oh, I'm just going to guess 350 of the answers were false.
No, it's 100. How many? It was 100
Oh,
questions.
okay, 70.
All 100 answers were false.
Oh my! Can you
get any more Machiavellian?
Does this have some personal relevance? Did you take that test?
No, but if I'd have been one of his students, I would. I'm not a violent person, but I might have been rude upon getting my paper back. Anyway, let's move on to the American League. We don't have a Yankee, we don't have any Yankees. It's a surprise. None. Zero.
The closest I can come is a kid named Wade, only because he went in to play shortstop and was not a very good fielder, but did not play his way off the field. And that's the weakest choice I've made.
Yeah, very small sample. Yeah. I'm hard pressed. They've got a pitcher that came up, and I'm having trouble with his name, who's pitched pretty well in a few spot starts, and I've drawn a blank on his name. But let's. I had a name for the Giants that I didn't throw out.
Are you talking about Montgomery?
Jordan Montgomery has been with the Yankees for 2 or 3 years. He has pitched pretty well.
Okay.
I expected him to pitch well, but he might have pitched better than I expected. That's a candidate. The guy with the Giants that I meant to mention is a guy by the name of Lamont Wade Jr.
Yeah. He played right here, half mile from where I live at the University of Maryland baseball team.
Really?
Yes, sir.
Well, Akil Badu. I stole my own thunder because he's the biggest surprise of the Tigers.
Yes, hands down.
Akil
actually,
Badu.
you can make an argument for Haas too, but Badu really was sparkling.
Akil Badu is from Silver Spring, Maryland, right around the corner.
Right. Okay.
All right. So How about the Los Angeles Angels? Do we have any surprise performers?
Jared Walsh.
Yeah, he was pretty good last year.
Not like this year.
All right, I'll buy that. Anybody else?
He's a 30. He's slashing a roughly 29 or 30 and 100 and a 277 average.
Yeah. Okay. All right. How about the Texas Rangers?
I've got a guy named Kello Perfar, the shortstop, either this man or Garcia, and I can't remember his first name. He has 29 home runs, Garcia.
Adolis Garcia. He has regressed significantly since the All-Star break, but he'll still finish the year with 30 home runs probably. And nobody ever heard of him. Have you ever heard of him?
Not before the season.
Have you ever heard of him?
No, not before this season.
All right, test question. Who's hit 9 home runs for the Texas Rangers since August the 13th?
His name has already been thrown out on the show. It's been thrown out. Mr. D.J. Peters, recently of the Los Angeles Dodgers, who outrighted him, and Texas was only too happy to take him.
9 home runs since April 13th.
9 home runs, 24 runs batted in. And we discussed Peters, and we thought, well, to quote Mitch Hartson, a 4A player, but he's only 25 years old. You can work with the kid.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Well, I think they gave away a really good, or he could end up being Steven Souza for that matter, but he looks good now.
Oakland Athletics.
Oakland Athletics. So that's kind of a tough one. Although I would go back to a guy I picked earlier. I had a season that I don't think anybody expected from Matt Olson.
He's hit 30 home runs before, bro.
Well, then I'm sure.
I'm going to pull one out of the backyard. Jed Lowry, who hasn't played in 2 years. He's got close to 670 runs.
Lowry was good before he went into a skein of injuries.
But he was gone for 2 years.
He had a lot of injuries.
It's hard to believe that you didn't expect Jed Lowry to come in.
Actually, your pick is better than mine because when a player is out for that length of time, usually he doesn't come back that way.
Houston Astros.
Houston Astros surprise would be, I'd say maybe Kyle Tucker.
Kyle Tucker had, I think, over 90 runs batted. No, last year was a shortened season. Kyle Tucker had a great season last year in the 62 games. But I will buy Kyle Tucker because he never played a whole season.
Right.
Yeah, I'll buy Kyle Tucker.
I would say that for a second. I felt like there were crickets out.
Well, the crickets are always close by. They're always ready to bite you in the.
By the way, can I bring up crickets?
Right.
Crickets are what we now define as reporting by all major league teams to all of us loyal fans in the online or text statistical summaries of games. Crickets are what are reported as silent but deadly reporting of game attendance.
Well, I'd say the better term for that is smoke and mirrors.
Well, there you go.
Why do I say smoke and mirrors?
It's not fannies and seats. You can't judge anything by what you're seeing if you're watching the game. It's tickets sold, not seats occupied.
Well, if I'm the CPA working the finance, I don't give a rip whether you're sitting in the seat or not, except for one major problem. If you ain't sitting in the seat, you're not eating hot dogs and you're not drinking beer. And the last time I looked, they charged $11 for a 12-ounce cup of beer.
You're not participating in their promotions and their raffles.
You know what? In my next life, if I have one, instead of wasting my time getting a doctoral degree, I want to sell beer keg beer at the ballpark for $11 for a 12-ounce cup of rot gut damn Bud Light. I hope Budweiser isn't on the newscast. And you can get about 200 12-ounce cups, and likely the plastic cups probably cost the vendor more than the beer. I wasted all my time in school getting 3 college degrees when I could have gone and sold beer at the ballpark.
In my afterlife, I want to be the one who supervises the distribution of draft beer. I won't pick out any stadiums or any brands. I want to be the one who looks this over for half a season, goes to my little hole-in-the-wall office up somewhere on the 4th level, and develop an invention that will forever and ever and a day stop this process of going to buy draft beer and having the server, not to his or her blame, give you a 16-ounce glass that's 3 ounces beer and 13 ounces of foam.
Well, you've always been wanting some head.
I will take a pass on responses due to the unforeseen circumstances that I never discuss. My drinking habits.
All right. Now, let's move on to the Seattle Mariners.
Seattle Mariners, most surprising player would be a man named France, in my opinion.
I buy that 100%.
What's his first name?
Ty France.
I've got France as the surprise of the Mariners.
That's one of the best ones you've thrown out. That's a good one. I'm all in on that.
Thank you.
He was a Padre. And he is a good player. You know how much I'd love to see that guy come over to the Washington Nationals this winter? It ain't going to happen.
The list of people I want to see come here is too long to cite on this particular program. But the thing I like about France, they do a lot of platooning in Seattle, maybe with the exception of Haniger, Seager, and my choice here, France, who, if you look up, you'll figure out he's played practically every day. I think he's stolen bases. I really didn't get to his slash line. He's not a power hitter, but he's been productive.
Okay, moving over to the Central, Kansas City Royals.
Kansas City Royals.
Surprise player
on the Kansas City Royals. I would have gone with Benintendi for a while, but I don't know what happened. Is he a half-season player?
He got
injured.
I don't think it was that serious, but he plateaued badly. He has done nothing lately. How about Nicky Lopez?
I can't even. His name didn't pop up. He's a dead cinch as the surprise of the year.
Huh?
Isn't he doing what Alberto Mondesi was supposed to be doing for this team?
He came up and he's stolen 18 or 20 bases from us.
But he wouldn't have had
out of nowhere.
He wouldn't have had an opportunity if Mondesi had been able to play.
But for Kansas City, I think that he's up there. And the Texas Rangers, we both can agree, Adolis Garcia.
Yes.
Biggest surprise.
Yes.
How about the Minnesota Twins? Surprise. Polanco doesn't qualify because Polanco is good.
The surprise on the Twins would be that's so difficult. There's
a lot of bad surprises on the Twins.
It's so difficult to pick somebody on the Twins. It sure wouldn't be Sano. What's he batting? 199. I'm copping out. I'm throwing it back to you.
No, you're not copping out. Maybe there isn't one.
I really can't even think of a pitcher. I can't think of anybody.
I can't think of anybody.
Maybe there's a reason they're in last place.
Are they in last place now? They are behind Kansas City.
Listen, since we went over this earlier today in our pregame skull session. In our pregame skull session, I hate it that it takes a minute, but it kills a minute of my day. In our pregame skull session, I think I said that there was nobody on this team I could even think of.
I can't either, so we'll move on. White Sox.
The White Sox, that kid that came up and was a catcher that wowed everybody for 2 weeks until his cup of coffee was drained and went back to the minors. So I can't pick him. Melendez, I can't even remember his name.
Mercedes.
I beg your pardon?
His last name, I think, was Mercedes.
Thank you. Like the car.
Mercedes.
Yeah. Well, he has spent most of the season in the minor leagues, but I think he came up and hit 4 home runs in his first week.
You actually raised a good name. He wasn't a surprise. He was a shock.
There you go.
He came up and, but he didn't.
Okay, I've got my guy.
All right, who?
Andrew Vaughn.
Yeah, I would say that
he's a surprise because everybody else in the lineup. We know about Robert. We know about Jimenez. We know about Abreu. We know about Grandal. We know about Anderson. Everybody in that lineup are people we know. Vaughn, we didn't know.
He was highly regarded as a prospect, but I'll give you that one.
Okay.
I'll give you that one because he wasn't on the roster. He's a rookie. He's done pretty well. Okay.
We have 5 minutes.
I know. We're going to finish this and then we're going to quit. The Orioles, Cedric Mullins has run away. Is there anybody else in the Orioles that has surprised you?
Yes, sir.
Who?
Urias. At shortstop.
Ramon Urias.
Ramon Urias.
Yeah.
He's done well. Well. And by the way, I would cite one other person who doesn't qualify because he's only recently been acquired, and I think the team that let him go made a big mistake. They ended up releasing their starting third baseman, Mikael Frankel, because they like this guy so much. One of the former San Diego Padres, Mateo now.
Yeah, just hasn't played enough. Yeah.
Yeah, well, no, that's why I didn't pick him, but I think he's going to be good.
All right, Boston Red Sox.
Boston Red Sox, I've got Dahlbeck, and I know he doesn't have a great batting average, but he's picked it up. His slash line, if you drop that 225 or 230 batting average, is something like 17 homers and nearly 70 runs batted in, and everybody said they didn't have a single person to play first base. He hasn't been terrible.
I was kind of going to go with Hunter Renfro, even though Renfro has played for a couple of other teams. He's been stuck. I would say he's been better than what I thought.
Renfro would qualify because Renfro had never done anything particularly noteworthy in his career, had platooned a lot, but the Red Sox made a really good move with Renfro. They took him from behind home plate and turned him into an outfielder.
Toronto Blue Jays.
I would say most of those people are known commodities. I would say we didn't do biggest disappointments tonight, but if we did, I would say Kevin Biggio is the biggest disappointment. The biggest,
that's a good topic for another day.
The biggest surprise to me, though, he has had good seasons. The biggest surprise to me has been how good Marcus Semien has been.
He's had other good years. I would say Vlad, because even though Guerrero. The reason I'm saying Guerrero, he got a ton of hype, but he did nothing.
No, this year. The biggest thing Guerrero did in the offseason was drop about 40 pounds.
Right. The reason I'm saying he's a surprise, I had him, and I extended his contract in my keeper league, my legacy league, till 2023, and I tried my best to trade him all winter long, and nobody would take him off my hands at a $20 salary. So I ended up with Guerrero, who's going to have 40 home runs and 100 runs batted, and he's virtually there right now.
We're getting there, rounding third base and headed toward home. You wanted to give a shout out to people you've seen in the chat room. I wasn't.
Mal Powell, Eddie Heckman, Lenny Amelin, Andrea Lamont. I hope I haven't missed anybody who's been in there tonight. I really haven't been in there much. I know Mal Powell had a couple of questions. I don't want to miss anybody. Eddie Heckman, Mal Powell, Andrew. Yeah, I think I covered everybody. So I just want to say on behalf of both of us,
we're grateful. Thank you, folks. Thank you.
We want to think about the people who work hard, and that's all the way from the sanitation workers, aka garbage collectors. I take out every Christmas on 2 or 3 days, whenever they make their pickup closest to Christmas.
I know where you're headed with this. I do the same thing.
I put a Christmas card in an envelope and a $20 bill, which is chump change, and I have 2 people on the crew, and I'll tape that with duct tape on the top of the trash can.
That's good.
To thank those men for what they do, and it's nothing. The money is nothing. It's that I just want to say thank you in some way. Probably if I was decent, I'd give more. But those guys now, they drag my trash can when they come and pick it up.
Yep.
They bring my trash can back to the house when everybody else's is left in the street. I don't want them to do that.
Well, they know because they know you're the oldest goat on your street.
Well, maybe that's true too. Yeah, that's true. Maybe they think I'm disabled or whatever. But
thanks everybody so much.
All the way from the sanitation workers to the people who work in the checkout line at the grocery stores,
right.
We never appreciated all the healthcare and the first and responders. And
right.
I'm including the executives. I'm including the suits. I'm including the people making 10. Everybody who works should get our appreciation on this great holiday.
I agree.
How's that? Cheers. I will see you in 10 minutes down in the bar.
Oh my gosh. I don't drink.
Merrill, can you hear me? Merrill.
Yes.
I just want to say that I wish I was meeting you at the bar too.
Thank you, Andrea. We'll
Have
do
a
that
drink for
sometime.
me. Okay, bye.
Thank you.
What'd you say?